Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittany Bundles. You are listening to the Brittany Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. And today we're gonna talk about a couple of things that you do want to consider before starting your hair business. I get this question a lot. The question is, hey, I'm interested in starting a hair business. Where do I start? What do I need to do? Do I need to get an LLC? Do I need to get my PO box today? What do I need to do? And honestly, that question, it's different depending on where you're at in your journey, right? So when I get that question, a lot of times I ask additional questions to find out exactly where that person is at and also where they plan to go with their business, what type of business they're looking at starting. Because if you say, hey, I'm starting a hair business, that doesn't give all the information. There's so many different hair businesses that you can start. There's so many different areas in the hair industry that you can incorporate yourself in, and it's not a one size fits all. So I'm going to go over some information that may be helpful to you if you are in the process of starting your hair business, any hair business relating to being in the salon or selling hair extensions in the salon, or really just the salon and hair extensions is really what I'm going to focus on. And then also if you're wanting to be like a wholesaler, if you're just wanting to distribute hair products and extensions. So if you're interested in this video and this podcast, which is in a video form, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I have an entire playlist for the podcast on this channel. Also be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at Brittany Bundles _podcast. Also be sure to check out the links down below this video. Enroll in the email mailing list. That way you're up to date on all of the episodes, and you get a little bit more information and tips, and some resources are sent out as well if you join the mailing list. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Please share this episode. Sharing helps to grow the podcast. It helps to spread awareness to the prior entrepreneurs that have been on the podcast. It helps to spread awareness to their businesses, and I'm all about empowerment, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and growth. And so that helps us do that. So please go ahead and share the podcast. You can share the podcast via social media. You can share it via text message. You can turn on the podcast while you're riding in the car with a family member or a friend. Just get the word out as best as you can. I truly appreciate it. I'm going to give you a moment to do that, and I'll be right back in just a moment. All right, so we're back. And what I want to first start off talking about is having an idea of what part of the hair industry you want to specialize in. Okay, not saying that you have to stick to one thing, because if you know me, you know that I'm not someone that just sticks to one thing. You know, I like to branch off, I like to grow, I like to utilize my different skills. So I may be interested in selling bundles, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be the end of my business. It doesn't mean that, you know, just because I start here, I'm going to end here. But I say decide what you want to specialize in, because that's going to give you an idea of where you want to get started at and what you need to get started. For example, if you're looking at starting with opening a brick and mortar location, opening a salon, the first thing you want to do, in my opinion, is you want to check the law, the legal side of opening your salon. So you want to start looking into what are the laws around opening a salon in your state. So for example, when I was interested in opening Bad Chick Hair Salon, I first wanted to see what I needed to do that, okay? And I had to make a decision as to what type of salon I wanted to run. Because, for example, in Michigan, natural hair cultivation did not require a license at the time that I opened my salon. However, if you wanted to wash hair, apply chemicals, I believe even using hot tools, needed a cosmetology license. Now, I didn't have the plan on working as a stylist nonstop in my salon. That wasn't my goal when I thought about opening the salon. I had the idea of having different stylists in. I had the idea of being able to create like a separate center for the business side, right? Like my drop shipping and the different business consultations and mentoring that I do now online. I wanted to bring that into an area face to face, you know, in person. And so to do that, I had to see how I could get that started. There also were different um, rules and regulations around how everything had to be placed in the salon. What could be in the salon and what couldn't be in the salon. How many people could work inside of the salon based on the square footage. So the first thing that you want to get familiar with is the laws, okay? Are you licensed? Are you wanting to perform certain activities or styles that are going to require a licensed cosmetologist to do? If so, figuring out, okay, how do you want to map this out? So for me, I was able to hire a licensed cosmetologist to be the salon manager. And so at that point, the stylist worked under her, and I was more so just the owner. And with that, I still was responsible for paying the rent, responsible for overseeing how things ran, hiring if I needed to hire more staff, also letting go if I needed to do that, marketing. It's a lot of other responsibilities that fell under that, but I had to set up my business in a way that was legal. You also want to look into different business entities to figure out which one works best for you. So do your research on LLC. Do your research on sole proprietor. Do your research on DBAs. Do your research on all of them, all of the different entities. Even if you know which one you're going to go with, it's still very wise to have that information under your belt before you start your business. And then also think about the future too. So like I mentioned a little bit ago, when I said just because you may start with a salon doesn't mean that's where you're necessarily going to end. I also knew that I wanted to keep my online business up and running, where I sold extensions, and I still sell extensions to this day. So I wanted to look into the financial portion as well. Like, what do I need to pay during tax time or for tax time? First year I filed my taxes, I was shocked to find out that there was another form that wasn't submitted on my behalf. Thought my tax advisor took care of everything, but there was another Michigan sales and use withholding form that I was supposed to turn in, and didn't know about that. Being a new business owner, had no idea. And although you can get information online and you can pull up information on the blogs, the best source of information when you're looking at starting your business and getting the law down pat is to go to your .gov websites. And if you're looking for tax advice, is to go to a tax advisor, one that specializes in not just doing personal taxes, but also business taxes. You can go to someone that has a lot of experience doing personal taxes, but has no experience doing business taxes. And although they may know how to input the numbers, they may not know all of the laws and all of the exemptions and credits that you may qualify for being a business and the certain type of business you had. So some of the questions that I asked when I got my tax advisor that was specialized on the business side as well, is I asked if my home office could be written off. And so she explained that how I was using it, it couldn't at that point. And I can't remember or even begin to go into like how she explained how that wouldn't work for me in my situation. But I remember her breaking it down to me, and I had a friend that was in kind of the same situation, but a little bit different. And she was able to do exactly what I was looking for. Now we'd had different size homes. Our home offices were different sizes. We were utilizing our offices different amounts of time. And so it was a little bit different. And so if I just would have taken her advice, that I may have, automatically thought or assumed that the same advice applied to me also, depending on the state that you live in. Laws are different. So that's the first thing that I would get familiar with, is familiarizing yourself on, number one, what you want to do. And then number two, how can you do it? Okay. I remember ordering sinks, and the only way that we could have sinks in there is if we had a licensed manager, because again, we didn't need to have a license to do natural hair cultivation, but it just limited the amount of services that we could provide, which also limited the amount of people that I could hire in and have working in the salon. And that also had an impact on the amount of booth rent that I could collect if I didn't offer more services, like a broader range, right? So I wanted to do more than natural hair cultivation. And so, like I said, I knew I needed to have a licensed manager, and I knew I needed to hire people. Some people, could do natural hair cultivation and didn't need the license, but I also needed people that were licensed as well in the salon to be able to bring the vision that I had to reality. Okay. And then, like I said, making sure that you are becoming legal with your business before you even start. Um, Working in the financial industry, I mentioned this a little bit ago or some other videos, that I would work with different business owners that would constantly say, hey, I don't file taxes, or I'm doing this under the table. And it's all fun and dandy until you need that income. You need to prove the income. So when they were looking to get approved for their car, or looking to get approved for a house, or looking to get approved for really anything, and they needed some additional income because they hadn't filed those taxes, they weren't able to claim it. My whole method has always been, be honest, file the right information, the right time. Yes, you may have to pay more out, but it's always better for records, for your morality, and just to keep everything underway, to be ethical. Okay. Another thing that I would think about is startup costs. How much is it going to cost you to do this, right? I knew that when I initially started my salon, I didn't want to take out a business loan. I knew that. Why? I just didn't want to do it. I had been told from a young age not to get a lot of credit cards, not to go into debt. And so I was honestly scared of credit cards in my early 20s. And once I got over that fear and just realized that it's not really the credit cards that you should be afraid of, it's really how you manage it. As long as you make sure you're getting the right interest rate, you're getting the right card with the right perks, and you're making sure that you're keeping your balances below 30% of the credit limit, you'll be fine. Credit cards can actually help to build your credit. But I still knew that I didn't want to take out a lot of loans. I had an auto loan at that point, and I had a mortgage loan, and I had a few credit cards. And I didn't want to max out my cards, and I didn't want to do a business loan. So at that point, I started planning, okay, putting money aside to be able to open up my business. I didn't know exactly how much it would cost, but I knew that I needed to start putting money aside. And then I also prayed about it, and I put a lot of my faith into God. And I said, I know this is going to happen, and I moved like it was going to happen, and it did. And so during that process, when I was saving, I was looking at different buildings. I was going to tour different buildings because I knew the look that I wanted to have, but I didn't know how much it would all cost. And so I went to look, and I got some price quotes, and I believe the rent that I settled for was like $1,700 a month. And that didn't include, I think that included the utilities as well. And I knew that I needed to have a good plan in order to make sure that all of my bills at home were paid, plus the salon. Okay. And one thing that I want to remind all of you is that although there is a misconception that when you have your business, you just have ample amounts of money, that can be true in some seasons. But what's also true is that your business, a lot of times, it's impacted by the economy, just like jobs and everything else. So if, during COVID, businesses felt that impact. If there's a shutdown, businesses feel that impact. If there is a change in trend where more people are doing their styles themselves and going to the salon, that's going to change. So if there's a change in trend where more stylists are doing hair from their own individual suites and at their home, that's going to change. So a lot of things can impact your business, and that's one of the reasons why I talk about making sure that you have multiple streams of income, not just because it sounds cool to say it, but because if you're not generating the money that you need to generate, you still want to be able, or in that specific field, you still want to be able to punch in other areas to fulfill that, right? Like you still want to be able to pay your bills, you still want to be able to pay your rent at your studio or your salon or your brick and mortar store. You still want to be able to run your business. So look into the startup cost. How much is it going to cost for equipment? How much do you want to go into debt for your business? Now, there are people that have taken out loans, gone into debt, and it was one of their best decisions. I've watched a lot of videos here on YouTube and listened to podcasts where people are like, look, I took out $50,000 and it was the best choice that I made. I was able to make this much back, and I was able to grow my business a lot faster with the capital that I needed. And so everyone has a different story, but that's why I said you have to figure out what you want to do. Okay, like what do you want to do? What are you willing to do? And then make a plan around that. Also, you want to start thinking about staff. So if you're going to work on the business, like let's say you're doing a e-commerce business, are you going to work alone or are you going to have a business partner? If you're going to have a business partner, you want to know how you all are going to set up everything up. Like, are we going to split our profits down the middle? Are we going to decide to not take any money out of the business for the first 2 years? Are we going to both put in the exact same amount of money every month to keep the inventory stock, to keep the website paid for? Like, you want to have that plan laid out. And I would suggest you get your plan looked over by a lawyer, because let me tell you, I've seen some great relationships start out in business and end in court, and that's the last place that you want to be. So to protect yourself, just make sure that you have yourself and your partner covered legally as far as what the expectations are and what will happen in the event that you all decide to go your separate ways, or in the event that someone takes more money out of the account without permission. Like, you want to have all of that planned out as well. Another thing that I would look into learning is about what type of clientele or what niche you're going to be marketing to. When you start a hair business, a lot of people, or any business, a lot of people say, I'm marketing to everyone. I hear that a lot. Everyone's my customer. Hey, the dollar has no face to it. I want everyone's dollar. That may be true. But in order to really dive in and start making, in my opinion, large strides with your business and meaningful connections, you do want to start with a certain niche. That is the people that you're going to be marketing to primarily. How are you going to market to them? Having a marketing plan, saving up for marketing as well. And I'm someone that doesn't necessarily promote paid ads, but there's other ways to market besides paid ads. You may want to pay for a feature to get onto a radio station, a talk show, a podcast. You may want to pay for a collab with someone that may have a lot of followers here on YouTube. You may want to pay for different giveaways. So just because you're not paying for paid ads doesn't mean you won't need money for marketing. And I want to say that again. Just because you're not using the money for paid ads and you're marketing organically does not mean that you don't need any funds for marketing. Okay, I think that's another large misconception. So those are some things that I would start thinking about before I opened my business. I would start thinking about those things and really, outlining how you want the structure of your business to be, getting the legal information underway, legal filing underway, getting the tax expectations underway, getting the right people for the services that you're needing them to do underway, finding a location if you're going to be a brick and mortar location or a salon, finding a website host if you're going to be e-commerce or even both, getting contracts in place with business partners, making sure you have a budget, making sure you have an understanding of how the funds are going to be distributed, and then also making sure that you have a plan on continuing to generate income and how you're going to reinvest the money that you receive to continue to grow your business. That's something that a lot of people don't talk about either, especially when I do mentorships, and when I do different business consultations and I ask questions. A lot of people say, hey, I don't have a system for reinvesting back into my business, and that should definitely be in place before you even get your first sale. Where is this money going? What part needs to go back into my business? If all of it's going into my business, then where is it going? Okay. You want to make sure you have a strategy for all of that. So I really hope that this podcast episode helped. I'm going to be coming back with more videos. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know any questions that you have so that we can discuss it on the next episode. I do want to thank you all for tuning in, and I will talk to you all on the next podcast.